ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवस्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
Om Shri Sai Ram. I offer my most humble pranams at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Bhagavan. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, Sai Ram to all of you. Through Swami's divine will and grace, we have the great opportunity of listening to our brother Amitabh Das Gupta today. Brother Amitabh studied in Swami's divine place, Prashanti Nilayam, from grade 1 till his MBA. He has the great fortune of working in Prashanti Nilayam from 1999 to 2005. Currently, he is living in Melbourne. It is our greatest pleasure on behalf of Sri Satya Sai International Organization, Sri Lanka, to invite Brother Amitabh Das Gupta to deliver a great speech and share his experience on the topic of my beloved. And after this session, there will be a Q&A session, which you can participate as well, brothers and sisters. Please send in your questions to Brother Manoharan's chat box. And it's time for us to now to listen to Brother Amitabh Das Gupta and his divine experiences with Swami. Over to you, brother. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, everyone. Just checking if you can hear me.
We can hear
Clearly?
you well, brother. Very well.
Okay, Sai Ram. I just want to start off with a bhajan. आओ प्यारे नयन हमारे साई हमारे आओ तुम बिन कोई नहीं रखवाले तुम बिन कौन सहारे बाबा तुम बिन कौन सहारे तुम बिन कौन सहारे आओ साई प्यारे आओ Sai Pyare. My loving pranams at Bhagwan's lotus feet, respected elders, brothers and sisters from this beautiful land of Sri Lanka. I am so privileged and blessed to be here this evening to share some of my thoughts specifically on this topic, my beloved. One day we were called by Swami to distribute some prasadam inside the interview room. We were called inside, we distributed the prasadam, and we came back. And we were waiting in a passage between Swami's interview room and his dining room. It's a very small and thin passage. And we could hear the prasadam being distributed outside. And Swami was talking to few devotees in the portico. And suddenly the interview room door opened and Swami stepped inside, and there was this click and the door closed, and we could feel and smell Swami's presence in the interview room. A couple of minutes passed by and we were in the passage between the interview room and Swami's dining room. And suddenly Swami was looking at some letters and he put it down, and there's a curtain between the interview room and the passage. And suddenly Swami opened the curtain like this, and he looked at us boys. There were 3-4 boys standing in the passage, and with this beautiful, charming, lovely smile, he said, "Chor, chor, chor," means thieves, thieves, thieves. What are you thieves doing in my house? How did you land up here when everyone is outside? And he said, "You're all chores in my house, but I am the Chitta chor. I am the biggest of chores. I'm the biggest of thieves. And what do I steal? I steal your hearts." And it was such a beautiful smile. And we were boys, young boys standing there. And we were so happy, joyous, and were full of love. And Swami just mentioned that I am Chittachor, I am the stealer of hearts. And that is what Swami was in his physical presence. He was our beloved. He was the beloved of not just students, not just devotees, but normal everyday people. Every day, everyone connected to him, and everyone felt, whether they are from Puttaparthi or whether they are from overseas or whether they are from anywhere in the world, they were connected to him. And for everyone, he was their beloved. It was like, if you look at any other personality in this entire span of humankind, it was remotely you can connect Swami with only Krishna, where Krishna, right, he was the beloved of everyone, right? When he was 6 years old, he was the beloved of Gopikas. He stole their hearts till the end of their lives, right? Or whether you look at the Pandavas, or whether you look at Draupadi, or whether you look at Kunti, or whether you look at Vidura, like he was the beloved of everyone, and that was what Swami was, the beloved of all his devotees, the beloved of all his students. Everyone connected to him one on one. And I remember my journey as a 4-year-old boy when my parents got me to Puttaparthi. And it was 1980, and the college was had just got constructed, and there was some activities for Sevadals to really do in the college campus. And my father had taken myself and my elder brother there, and we were doing some work. I was just 4 years old. Imagine, I was trying to do some seva as well. And I was holding a broom and trying to sweep something. And a lot of people were doing. And suddenly there was this hush. And there was this, they said, Swami is coming, Swami is coming. And everyone left all their implements and ran towards that car. And my father also went off somewhere, and I went off somewhere. And it was a big commotion, and everyone went to see Bhagwan who had come. And everyone left their implements, spades or brooms or other things, but I ran. I had a broom in my hand, and I went running, and I found a space. And as soon as Swami's car came with the broom in hand, that's what my parents tell me, I just shouted, Jai Bolo Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba Ji Ki Jai, right? And imagine a 4-year-old boy shouting with a broom in hand. And Swami's car stopped, and he pulled down his window, and he gave this beautiful smile, and he blessed, um, and and then he drove away. And at that point in time, it didn't strike me as to what happened. And all the devotees came and started telling her, there was a little boy who stopped Swami's car, and I had no idea what I did. But then, if I reflect back then, right, as a 4-year-old boy, I had no idea who Swami was, right? Yes, his photo was there in our altar, but he was just my beloved, right? He just connected to me, my parents, and to everyone around. And I wanted to join his school. Imagine getting away from the luxury of your parents, and you want to um, go and leave everything, the comfort of your home, and you want to go just because he stole your heart, right? As a 4-year-old. And that was how he came into our lives and came into my life. And if I reflect on one particular incident in my primary school, which really has stayed with me even till now, was we used to have Swami's Darshan on Saturdays and Sundays. It was beautiful. However, the chance we used to get was during birthdays, during boys' birthdays. It was a personal contact with Bhagwan. Swami would bless the boys. He would maybe speak something. And one of the cherished opportunities was he used to autograph his photographs. And the birthday boys would get first preference. And I was, it was my chance to go and get blessings on my birthday. So my mother was there. I told my mother, Mother, Swami has um, uh, uh, permitted me to get his blessings. So can you get me a photograph of Swami, a camera photograph of Swami, because that was the very envious thing of every student there, so that I can take it to Swami and Swami will sign. And the camera photo was a very was the exchange currency in the school those days. Like, we used to exchange Swami's photos like currencies and bets and everything. Swami's photo was the most important thing, and if it was a camera photo, that gave you more prestige. And I asked my mother, can you get me a camera photo? And she went to the shop just outside the ashram, and she got me a photograph of Swami. And she came to me, she came to the school And I asked her, mother, where is the photo? And I was expecting a nice envelope. And suddenly she opened her purse, and she took out a small passport size photograph, I think, which was 1 rupee or something. And or I think 50 paisa those days. So for 1 rupee, you could get two. And it was this small, like a passport size photograph. And I told, like, Mom, how can you get me a passport size photograph? And I was so angry because it will impact my prestige among my so-called friends, and they will laugh at me if I show this is the photograph I want Swami to sign. And I was really afraid with, I was very upset with my mother. And she said, son, for Swami, size doesn't matter. And those days, a camera photo used to cost 4 or 5 rupees, and you could have 2 full meals in canteen, right? And everyone doesn't have the luxury of that much money, right? And I was not bothered about that. I was just bothered about my peers and my school friends, grade 5 friends. And I was upset, but then I said, okay, I'll take it. But my mom said, don't worry, Swami doesn't care about size. And she gave me this small photograph, and I put the photograph in my pocket. And I went into the mandir, and I was praying to Swami, please don't sign photographs that evening, because if you sign photographs and then I have to show mine, and everyone will laugh, you will laugh, and it'll be very embarrassing for me. So I was just praying. I'm just taking it, but I pray that Swami, you don't sign photographs. And Swami came for darshan. He took a round, and then he came. He went into the interview room, gave interviews, and then he came. And I was just praying so sincerely, Swami, please don't sign photographs, right? I don't want to be embarrassed in front of everyone. And Swami came, and he came straight to us who were seated there. And he listened to my prayers, and he asked, okay, boys, give me photographs, whoever wants to sign. And I was like, Swami, I'm praying to you. And I was really feeling embarrassed. And then Swami started signing one photograph, second photograph, and the photographs grew bigger. Some people gave a postcard one, some gave a cabinet size photograph. And then that day later, one boy gave a life-size photograph of Swami. And imagine, my photograph, I'm not showing because it is in my pocket. And I'm like so embarrassed. And now they've got a life-size photograph. And for the life-size photograph, Swami asked for a thick marker to write. And then after he signed that, then he looked at everyone and he said, any more photographs? And very sheepishly, I put my hand in my pocket, and I took out this small um, passport size photograph of Swami, and I gave it to him. And I just looked at him up, and I was seated down, and he looked at me and he said, Itna chota photograph or itna bada pen, how can I sign? So he had just signed this massive photograph. So it has a thick marker, and mine is only this small. And he said, how can, so it is such a small photograph and I have such a big pen. How can I sign? And he smiled, and everyone laughed. All the boys laughed, and I just had tears in my eyes, and I was like, oh my God, I had to get embarrassed, and everyone will laugh at me. And I was crying, in my soul was crying. How can Swami, you do this? My mother said that for Swami, size doesn't matter. It is only the depth of feeling matters. And then Swami looked at me and he said, he looked at everyone and said, anyone has a thin pen? And there was someone, those days there's a pen called pilot pen, and someone passed it to Swami, and then Swami took my small passport size photograph, put it on a book, and very gently, took so much time, because it was so small. He wrote, with love, Baba. So small. And after that, he spent so much time on it. And then he looked at it and he said, very nice photograph. And my heart leapt with joy and bliss and happiness. And I was having tears of joy in my eyes. And as soon as Swami left, all the boys pounced at me and say, "Oh, show me that small photograph which Swami signed. It is such a rare thing." And it was, and everyone gave me full attention. And till this day, if I reflect back, it was like, Swami even kept a mind of a 10-year-old boy, right? And he even was the beloved of this little child. He even cared about the feelings of this little child. What a lovely, magnanimous, gracious, compassionate Lord we have amidst us. So this was my experience while I was growing up. And then, yes, I was just one among the hundreds of students who were there, and Swami used to talk here and there, and we used to have the darshan, and all that was great. But then, by the time I reached my grade 12, I had plans to join engineering, and engineering was not a course in Prashanthi. I wanted to join India's premier engineering colleges, and I thought I will start preparing for that. So I was in my grade 12, and I said, this is going to be my last year, so I will not go for a winter vacation, and I will try to utilize as much as possible Swami's presence, because in winter vacations, everyone is, they go home. There are very few boys who just hang around, and so you get full attention from Swami. And my only desire was, Swami, I've stayed with you for 12 long years, but you don't know me by my name. I'm just among the thousands of students who are there. And I just have now 3-4 months left, 4-5 months, 4 months left. And after that, I will leave, and I will leave the your institution, and I will really miss you. But I want you to know me, right? And I stayed back that winter vacation, and I saw Swami giving so much of love and attention to so many boys around me, and I was really, really missing it. And the pining sort of increased so much. Swami, talk to me. Swami, that I needed that attention. I just have a few days and few months. I'm going. And I remember one day in the Purnachandra session, just few days before Diwali, um, Swami went around and he started giving crackers and to all the boys. And he started asking, what are you doing? And he spoke to everyone around me, and he just ignored me. And that really broke my heart. And that made me pine for Swami. And that pining at that point in time, which I had, I never got that feeling again, right? That pining, Swami, you should, I'm fit, like, I don't have time, and you're ignoring me. And I was crying, and I used to hear stories about Bhagwan and get choked hearing his stories, and tears of joy used to be in my eyes. And that was the beauty about Swami stories, that you hear his stories and you're thrilled at no ends. And I was just an 18-year-old boy. And and so one day, it was a 12th standard boys had chance to give arati to Swami and a coconut to Swami. And my opportunity was to give a coconut to Swami. And usually what happens after bhajans, we go in the front, and Swami comes down from the bhajan hall, and then we give him that arati and a rose, and then Swami goes inside the interview room, and he comes and gives vibhuti and goes. And I was so engulfed with that pining for Bhagwan. And Swami doesn't know me, doesn't speak to me, doesn't know who I am. But I was filled with that love, hearing the stories of God. For me, that was the only way I could get some sort of a devotion of to Bhagwan. And then Swami comes down he takes the arati in the bhajan hall, and we boys go, and I give this coconut. And then Swami looks at me um, with a wonderful, like, I can never forget that look. It gives me that, it's such a motherly, beautiful look. He blesses me and this other boy. We were two of us. And then he goes inside, gets a basket, and he puts his hand, gives vibhuti in my hands. Okay, he gives me some 3 packets, and then he gives that other boy, say 4 packets, and then after that again he gives me packets and puts 4 more packets in my pocket. And there was this special love that day, which I couldn't imagine that why. Usually he gives one, two, and he goes. He gave one, he gave him, again he came and gave me. And it was the most spectacular, beautiful, motherly feeling I got, that yes, he is listening to all the um, pining that I'm having from my heart. And there is someone who's listening to it. It's not going haywire. I was so thrilled out of the world that yes, whatever I'm doing silently without telling anyone, he is responding in physical form there. Even though he's not telling me that you're doing this, you're doing that, but there is this acknowledgement suddenly in his action and his face when he saw me. At the same time, again, it was um, time to celebrate my birthday, and I thought, okay, again, we just have 2 or 3 more months left, so I'm going to go to Swami. And Swami loves cloves, right? And the reason we boys used to say that Swami loves cloves is clove is see love, right? CLOVE. And Swami loves clove because he's love, embodiment of love, and clove is also see love, and that's why he loves cloves. And usually you have around 6 to 8 birthday boys, and birthday boys have a tray, and you have chocolates, you have cloves, everyone takes cloves, you have some groundnuts, and you have some dry fruits, and you have some yellow grains that Swami can actually shower on everyone. And I was like, um, so much longing and pining, as a young boy, to get his attention. Um, what and I had heard this beautiful story of the time of Rama and Krishna for Shabari, and Swami used to tell us in his discourses, like Shabari, when Rama came to Shabari, and Shabari was an illiterate devotee, and so when she saw Rama for the first time, and she had collected these fruits, and she took each fruit, this berries, and when she said, when she was offering it to Rama, she used to bite every one of them. Those which were not sweet, she used to throw away, and those which were sweet, she used to give it to Rama. And Lakshmana didn't like it. Lakshmana said, Rama, like, this is so dirty, right? How can you eat? And Rama said, no, this is the most sweetest fruit I can ever have. This is with so much of bhakti. And Rama ate those fruits which Shabri had eaten first and then given it to Rama. And then Rama even gave it to Mother Sita and Lakshmana to eat. That was, and we had heard this story, and we also heard the story about Vidura, that um, when Krishna came there, and they offered, he wanted to offer a banana to Lord Krishna, and instead of offering the banana, they were so enamored by the personality and love and devotion to Krishna that um, he ate the banana and gave the peel to Krishna to eat. And Krishna was so engrossed in the love for his bhakta, and Krishna ate the banana peel, right? That was the love with his devotees at that point in time. And so what I did was, because I was pining so much, because I was running out of time, and I took every clove, and Swami, we take the clove and we take out the top part, right? That is the ritual. Swami doesn't take the top part. So we take the clove, I took out the top part, and I put everything in, I tasted it, and I felt, yeah, maybe this one Swami will like. And I put that in the container. Every clove I tasted, some which were not clean, some which were not good, I threw it out. And I put myself in the position of what those great devotees could do. And but this was very silent. I didn't tell anyone. And I took that, and every clove was tasted by me, or it was, if you look at it, it was not hygienic, but it was just that I was pining for the Lord, pining for his attention. And I went into for darshan that evening, and boys were seated, and there were 6 7 birthday boys. It was a big crowd, and I was in one corner. And Swami came, he finished the darshan rounds. He came to the first, I was the last person, and he threw chocolates. He blessed everyone. He just touched, he took the yellow grains and threw everyone, but he did not touch the clove from anyone. And he came straight towards me towards the end, and he didn't touch anything. He just saw the cloves, and he took the cloves and he threw the cloves to everyone, right? He took it in his hand and threw it. And Swami usually doesn't throw cloves, he just throws chocolates. And then he took one clove and he put it in his mouth, and then one clove he put it in his hand, and he put it behind his back, and he walked. And I could see that clove in his hand. He was holding it till he went inside the interview room, and I was just thrilled with bliss. And I could feel that I'm talking to the inner Swami there, and the outside Swami is just reflecting it, and without any acknowledgement in a word form, because words actually spoil that connection. That, oh, okay, I am God, I know what you did, I know what you offered, right? It was just not that. It was just spontaneous that he took that clove, and he didn't take clove from anyone. He just took clove only from me, and he threw those cloves, and he put one in his mouth and took one. And in my heart it was like, ah, what an acknowledgement. And I was just jumping in joy with it, and I didn't share it with anyone. It was just and I'm just sharing it just with our devotees now, just to emphasize that even though he was not speaking to me, right, he was speaking to so many people, even though they were VIPs and they were prime ministers and presidents. And here was this school kid who was pining for Swami's attention. Okay, he's going to go into an engineering college, that's what he thinks. And here he's doing this, and still Swami is reflecting that and acknowledging it in his own way. Was the beauty of that inner Swami, what I cherished and experienced those days. And slowly after that, Swami had called the 12th class boys for an interview. And after that, and I was so much in love, and I was so much, I just wanted everything of him. And I started asking questions, and because after the interview, Swami asked the boys, do you have any questions? And I started asking a few questions, and then Swami suddenly gave me attention. And then he asked me, what is your name? And then from then he really started talking to me, and he started giving me that attention. And then he came to know my name, he talked about me. And then I forgot my engineering colleges, because I got Bhagwan. And Swami said, okay, you study here, you do MBA. And I went and continued to study in Puttaparthi. But the beauty about thing is that pining stage as a student, even though Swami was not talking to me, even though he didn't know my name, was the sweetest moments and my experiences with Bhagwan, because I was like 24 by 7 trying to think of him. And during that interview, when he gave to boys, he Swami's standards were so high. And one of the boys asked Swami, it's not practically possible to think about you 24 by 7. And you know what Swami said? Swami said, no, you guys are just lazy. You can do it. And then Swami gave us an example. Swami said, in a village, when the mother leaves her child to go and get water, while she takes her pot and the baby's there in the cot, she she's filling the water, and her mind is on the child. The mother is so connected, she loves the child so much. All the time she's thinking about her child. He's thinking about the child while filling water, while putting the pot on her head. Till she comes home, she is thinking of the child. And Swami asks, and Swami told us, why can't you think of God? Why can't you think of me in the same way? That was his standards of what he wanted boys to really reflect on and the standards he wanted boys to really follow. I remember once, again, Swami one day, um, after that, he started talking to me. One day he called us again for distribution of some prasadam. And I had distributed it, and I was coming back and putting the vessel inside Swami's dining hall. And as soon as I went from the interview room inside the dining hall, in the passage, I came face to face with Swami, alone, one on one. That was the first time I came one on one with Bhagwan. And Swami then looked at me, and Swami said, "How are you, sir?" And Swami had this beautiful way, and I said, "Swami, all your grace." And then Swami said, um, "Are you following my teachings?" And I said, "Swami, I'm trying." And then Swami got so upset, and Swami said, "What? Try, you'll go dry. You have to follow my teachings." I see, other day I told you not to talk, and you were talking. I saw you talking in such and such place, and Swami gave the full description. And I'm like, okay, Swami, I will not do it again. I'm trying. And Swami said, "No trying. You have to do. You have to do." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to follow Swami's teachings, and I'm going to keep quiet. I'm going to be silent." And he said, and he called me rowdy. And rowdy means, I think it's a thing for someone who is not well mannered, right? And suddenly Swami said, if Sai Baba calls you rowdy, the full world will call you rowdy, right? And if Sai Baba calls you good boy, the full world will call you good boy. That's all. And then I got the message that yes, my job is not to please anyone. It is to please only Swami. And then I realized the boys who were around Swami, that was their mantra, right? They never feared anyone, because their only job and their only motto in life was to please Bhagwan and no one else. And because they were so connected with Bhagwan, anything around Swami didn't matter to them, right? That was, I'd seen some of my seniors at that state, and that was what Swami was trying to train me as well, is try to please Swami. Okay, if Swami tells good boy, everyone will tell you good boy. And then I told, okay, Swami, I'm going to practice. I told myself I'm going to practice. And then Swami smiled, and in a very nice way, he actually let me go. And then he sort of pinched my cheek, and he said, "Okay, go." And I went. And after 1 week, we were seated around him in the interview room. And then I had a letter which I gave it to Swami. And he opened that letter, and in that letter I wrote, "Swami, I'm practicing your teachings, and I'm practicing it 95%. I'm able to practice 95% of your teachings. So please bless me so that I can be 100%." And as soon as Swami read it, and Swami said, 95%, but what about the remaining 5% of my teaching? You're not following 5%. That was his standard, right? But as soon as he saw that 95%, and he was so happy, and there was this bliss and joy, right? When as a parent, you see, when you have asked your children to follow you, and they follow you, it gives you so much of joy, right? My son or my daughter is following what I'm saying. And Swami was so happy, and he waved his hand, and he materialized a ring and gave me. um, the point here is that ring is not important, but it is that how much importance he gave to his teachings, right? if you really call him your beloved, and if you want him to call you that, yes, so and so devotees are my beloved, right? He wants us to follow his teachings and nothing else. I remember once Swami had called me for a personal interview, and he asked me, what do you want? And I said, Swami, I want to be near you. And Swami looked at me, and Swami said, you're already near me. And I was this close with Bhagwan. I'm already near you. And Swami, then I said, no, so Swami, I want to be dear to you. And then Swami said, that is different. You boys are just near me. You are like frogs around the lotus in the well, all right? You see, the foreigners, they are far nearer. They are like honeybees. They come from far, far lands. They are dear to me. They come here, they are like honeybees. They take the nectar, go back, and they follow my teachings, right? That was what Swami really emphasized on following his teachings and connecting with him internally, which I felt, which I experienced so much at Prasanthi Nilayam, right? Another thing I want to also mention was um, for my beloved. If you again look at my word, if you look at, you want to be Bhagwan's beloved, there needs to be two things, right? There needs to be love, and right, but before love there needs to be faith, right? And Swami used to say that faith is so important that faith needs to come first, and then only love will happen. And Swami used to give an example of, only if you know that she is your mother, you will love her, right? Because you have faith that she is your mother. And Swami had this beautiful way of inculcating faith on like around every one of us. And I remember my parents, when they got the first interview, my father had just I think he just retired, or he was Swami Swami told him, I'll give you, after that interview, he said, I'll give you a ring. I'll give you a white diamond ring. Swami told, right? I'll give you a white diamond ring. And my father was really excited. So I'm getting a ring from Swami. And he finished that interview, and he waited for the next day, and the interview didn't happen. And then he actually went back, and he thought next time when he comes to Puttaparthi, he will get a white diamond ring. And then he didn't get an interview, and nothing really happened. And 6 years passed, and he forgot about this whole thing, that Swami had given his word that he will give this white diamond ring. And by then I had finished my MBA, and I started to work in the ashram. And then Swami again called my parents, and he was speaking to my father. And I think, yes, my father had retired then in 1999 or early 2000. And suddenly Swami told my father, you retired, but I will retire you. And Swami said, don't worry, I will give you a very good job. And my father was not really interested in job, and he said he retired. He retired from a government service, and he was getting his pensions. He was not really looking for a job or anything. But Swami said, I'll give you a very good job, don't worry. And then immediately before finishing, I forgot about this white diamond ring, and suddenly Swami waved his hand, and he created this white diamond ring and gave it to my father. And like, it just struck me, my God, Swami, you told this 6-7 years ago, and you have spoken to thousands of people there. You don't have a secretary to really write down, okay, I've told him that I'll give him a white diamond ring, and he was just one among the millions of people I meet every day. But that divinity, that all-knowing thing, that everything, it just happened. And then Swami didn't come and tell me that, okay, I promised you, right? 6 years ago, I'll give you this, and now I'm giving it to you. But it just happened that he gave that white diamond ring to my dad. He created, because he had told 6 years ago. And after that, my father went back to Calcutta. And within a couple of months, he got a job with United Nations. Can you imagine, a prestigious job? And my dad even not even dream of it. And then it just happened how things fell into place. And some friend called him from somewhere, this, and this just happened. And this is just how Swami like sows in the seeds of faith um, on devotees, on his students, on everyone. There was one incident which I very, very vividly remember. This was while I was in Prashanti working. So I think one evening, Swami had just finished he was just finishing up his darshan, and me and few of boys who were working in the ashram were seated in the mandir, and suddenly Swami saw this devotee, and Swami was so happy, and he was the caretaker of Kodaikanal, and Swami was full of joy and bliss. And Swami then asked him, "How are you?" And this man got up and said, "Swami, by your grace, I am very fine. I have recovered." And then Swami looked at us and said, "You know, this man, his entire right part of his body was paralyzed. He got a paralytic attack, and this entire right part was paralyzed, right? He had, I gave him no grace. Okay, his faith in me grabbed the grace and cured him. I didn't give him grace. I was not responsible for curing him." Swami told us, I was not responsible in curing him. His grace, his faith in me grabbed that grace and cured him. And that was how devotees loved Swami. And it was such an eye opener for me as a young man, right? Okay, you can, if you have faith in God, if you love him so much, if he's your beloved, you can pray and snatch that grace from him. And he has got like nothing. He can't stop himself if that is the faith of the devotees. And he cured him. And I was so thrilled recollecting this this afternoon while I was trying to prepare. Okay, what do I really tell Swami's devotees, right? If I take a few more experiences as to one of the most important things I found is connecting with Swami all the time is what he really wanted all of us. One day in Vrindavan, a very, very powerful statement which rings with me even today. We were going for a vacation, and one thing Swami he told us, he said, "Boys, you think of me and I will think of all your problems," right? You think of me, I will think of all your problems. It is such a reassuring message for me, even till date. I still those messages of Bhagwan still reverberates in my ears. Um, and he wanted was, all he wants from us is to connect to him in one way or another every day, right? Connecting to that massive generator of power which is there, which he says is within us, and which we need to look within us and find it and get connected to him in whatever way. It could be as simple as dedicating our every action to him. One day we were in Kodaikanal with Swami, and Swami had taken a few of us, and every boy has an opportunity to serve. He gets a chance to serve everyone, and suddenly one day it was my chance to serve, and just the Swami finishes his food very early, and there was some VIPs who were just next to his table, and they were eating, and suddenly Swami called me and said, "Boy, bring some chapatis." And I got some chapatis, and he said, serve to that devotee. And I held the chapati uh, by by the tongue, and slowly I took the chapati. And as I was placing the chapati on the plate of that devotee, it slipped, and the chapati fell slightly outside, and I was just smashed. It just fell slightly outside, just outside the plate. And Swami was so upset, and Swami took that chapati and threw it, and he said, he blasted me out of shape and said, "You have no sense, you don't have no discipline, you can't even hold a chapati properly and serve." And Swami wanted his boys and all people around him to be perfect, right? You can't even serve properly, no common sense. And he said, "Throw that chapati in the bin." And that chapati was put in the bin, and he asked me to serve another chapati, and I was holding the tongue and I was chanting, "Sairam, Sairam, Sairam, whom else can you pray to?" And then I served that chapati, and Swami was, and this time it was fine, and the devotee had the chapati, right? And the incident didn't finish there, and the chapati got and we just went around along our days. And there was one day when Bhagwan, um, um, during an evening, Swami usually has very little food, and he usually has just one chapati at night. And Swami's door, uh, Swami's table is just near the door, and we cross Swami's table and get inside. And there was a wonderful, a devoted cook who was serving Swami a chapati, and Swami was facing us. And Swami was making all of us feel comfortable, like a mother. "Are you eating well? Eat more." And we all were seated before the Brahmarpanam would start. And Swami was not looking at what is being served on his plate. He was just, his back was towards his table, and he was just talking to few of us. And as soon what we noticed that this cook, as he was serving the chapati with the tongue on Swami's plate, that chapati fell down. And immediately Swami turned back. And that cook had, that devotee had a very embarrassing face. And immediately he took the chapati and wanted to throw it in the bin. And Swami said, "Hey, I will have that chapati only." And we all were like, "My God, how can Swami have a chapati?" The chapati fell on the ground, and we all walked on it. And it took more than 3 or 4 seconds for him to go and pick it up. And the 2 second rule. Within 2 seconds, if anything falls within a second, if you pick it up, I don't think so bacteria would have really gone in. I think this took some 3 4 seconds, and I'm sure there would be some bacteria on it. And Swami said, "No, I'm going to eat it." And the cooks pleaded to Swami, "Swami, no, Swami, no, Swami, no, Swami, please take a fresh chapati." Swami said, "No, I'm going to eat this one only." And then again, then Swami started speaking to him, and that cook had to put the fallen chapati from the ground into Swami's plate. And people love Swami so much, right? Everyone loves him like more than anything. And this devotee couldn't see Swami eating a fallen chapati, and Swami was again going around and seeing everyone is comfortable. And again, Swami was facing back, and suddenly what he did, he changed the chapati and put a fresh chapati and was trying to throw that chapati away. And immediately, as if Swami had eyes on the back of his head, Swami turned back and said, "Hey, put that chapati back. I'm going to have that chapati only." And there was pleadings, and Swami said, "No, I'm going to have chapati." That night, Swami had that fallen chapati, the chapati which fell on the ground. 20 years later, I sort of took these two incidents, the chapati which I served to a human being, not to God. Half of it just fell outside the plate and it was binned. And even though the action was, say, around 60% perfect, and here was this other action which was 100% wrong. The chapati fell down, but it was offered to God, right? And Swami made it perfect, right? Because you connected to him, because you offered it to him. Even your mistakes can, Swami will really make it correct. And so one day we were seated around Swami in the interview room, and Swami told us, you offer me all your bad thoughts, right? Offer me all your bad thoughts, and I will make it good. And he used to say, give me those, your bad thoughts are like coins or your old notes. There's so much of them. You give it to me, and I will give you a fresh, crisp currency note, right? That was what Swami used to say. One day we asked Bhagwan, we were seated around him, and we said, Swami, what do you want from us? What can we give you? And Swami, in his own way, he said, the only thing I want from you boys is love and nothing else. And he said, love is the property I gave to you before you were born. That was the gift I put into your heart. And it is your duty, and he emphasized, it is your duty to give it back to me alone. It is your duty to give it back to me. And that was what he said. All he wanted, all he wanted was love. And if you see that beautiful song which Swami composed, that why fear when I'm here, he says, all I want is your love, my child. All I want is your faith. All I want is your love in God, no matter what's your fate. All I want is your love in God, no matter what's your fate. So says Baba Satya Sai, Baba Satya Sai, Baba, my Lord. Why fear when I am here? That all he wants is that love which he is, which which is within our, which is within our hearts. That's all he wants. And he says it doesn't matter which faith you are, right? Which organization you are, where you are. All he wants, he needs us to ask him is, do we love him, right? Can we give him that love which he has given us, which he has put in our hearts? Can we give that love back to him, right? I'd like to um, conclude with a couple of more experiences with Bhagwan. Subsequently, when you really talk about uh, my beloved, one of the things which really comes is mind versus heart. Do I listen to my mind, or do I listen to my heart, right? And for me, it sometimes becomes very, very confusing, right? Do I need to rationalize everything, but or do I just need to think with heart for Bhagwan? And I realize, right, when you love someone, right, when you love someone, your logic goes away out of the window. You don't care. You can do the most impossible things because you actually love that person, right? And there was one experience where Swami, one day, this was while I was working there, one evening, and there was a statue. It was a bronze statue of Bhagwan, which someone from, I think, Italy had offered to Bhagwan, and that statue was implanted in Sai Kulwant Hall, somewhere near where Swami's Samadhi was. And suddenly one evening, Swami told Mr. Chiranjeevi Rao, who was to look after the ashram affair. Swami told him in the evening that I want this shifted into the mandir. And when Swami tells anything to Mr. Chiranjeevi Rao sir, is like he will immediately do it. And I was very lucky to be one of those boys chosen to move that beautiful statue of Bhagwan inside from Sai Kulwant Hall into the mandir. And usually at around 6 o'clock, everyone, all the workers are not there, and everything is done. But for Swami, if Swami gives the work, you have to do it. There's no question of, okay, let's do it tomorrow when the working day starts, right? And so Mr. Chiranjeevi Rao sir was there. Swami told him, and there were a few of us were involved. And a friend of mine at that point in time had come from US, and I was I wanted to meet him, and I had a dinner appointment with him, that we're going to have dinner together, and I've met him after a long time. And what sir had told us is, boys, you go and have your dinner and come, and after that we will actually do this work. And um, so some of the boys went, and Chiranjeev Rao sir didn't go for dinner, and he just took a chair and he sat there. And when people asked him, why are you not going for dinner, he said, Swami has given me this task, I have to finish it. Dinner and all can come later. Right? That was how much Swami trusted him. And he used to just follow Swami's action, or Swami's command by the letter. And I was like thinking, oh, okay, I'll just meet my friend, I will have this dinner, and then I'll start doing the Swami's work. And my mind was trying to pull me there as to, okay, should I go or not? But my heart was telling me, no, you've got this beautiful opportunity, just take it. Your friends will always be there. And I was almost going to meet him, but I just listened to my heart, and I said, no, I'm not sure what he will feel. And I was thinking of what he will feel, and he will make comments that I planned it and it was scheduled. And now this thing came up, and I just put that out of my head, and I said, no, I'm just going to do this. Swami's work, Swami had asked to do this. Chiranjeev Rao sir is not having a dinner. I will also not have my dinner, and I will finish this work, and then we can think about it. And we worked almost the middle of the night, and everything got ready the next morning, and I forgot about it, and I felt so satisfied that yes, I was doing Swami's work. And next day morning, Swami came, and Swami came inside the bhajan hall. Swami created a small what do you call uh, it was a rectangular item, a steel item, a plate like thing he created, and he said to put it under the statue. And we actually did that, and then all the work got finished. And then suddenly Swami started talking about me, and Swami mentioned me by my name, and he started saying, such a good boy, he worked whole night, he worked so hard, he did this, he did that. And here I was, like, I forgot about, like, I was thinking, why Swami is giving me so much attention, right? What did I do? I was just one among those 4 or 5 boys who did this work, and he just praised me and praised me till the roof. And he was calling me by my name, and he kept saying, good boy, good boy. And I was like, and then I realized, right? I reflected back that because I prioritize Swami's work, right? I took my heart in, and I didn't bother about, okay, my friend or what they will think, and I just focused on Swami, and I connected with him. That's where all this thing is coming, and I could feel that, yes, that acknowledgement which I didn't tell anyone, that I sacrificed this dinner or I did this, or, and Swami just reflected it the next morning. And that was the beauty about this avatar, about the Lord which we had, that the innermost things, what happens in our mind and in our hearts, just gets reflected next morning, or a few days later. And that connection he had with everyone. I remember one last thing was one day, right? One day there was, in the bakery, there was a new equipment which had come, and 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 some of the officials there invited me as well, as part of inauguration of that. And I was so excited to go, and I thought maybe I look important, and I'm going there because they invited me. But those days, what used to happen is, Swami, in the morning, we were so lucky to have the morning darshan and evening darshan because we are working in the ashram. So in the morning darshan, Swami finishes darshan by say 7:15, and then he goes inside the interview room, and everyone disperses off. Um, the college professors go to the college because college starts at 8 o'clock, and just there are few ashram boys who are left in the portico, and it's pin drop silence, and there's no one. All devotees have also dispersed, and Swami is gone inside the interview room. And here, back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, the organization has called me for this inauguration of this equipment, and I was excited to go there. But I didn't want. I wanted to be as part of. I wanted to be in Swami's presence there, and because Swami used to come out sometimes, and we used to be it's like half an hour, just close your eyes and meditate and be silent was at that point in time was the most soothing experience you would get. Swami's in the interview room and no one is talking, there's no students around, there's just 4 or 5 people in the portico. And that day I was just closing my eyes and I was thinking, oh, 8 o'clock, I have to go back because of this installation. And suddenly Swami comes out at around 7:55, and then Swami comes and I was having the thing, should I stay here or should I go there? My mind was telling me, go there. It's such an important thing, they may want you and it's an official thing. And here I was like, come on, I want to be here. Right? I've joined Puttaparthi to just wanted to be in as close to Swami and just be there. And Swami just comes and he just tells me, don't go, just be here. Right? And not directly but indirectly, and he's just there that day, he's just in the portico and he's there. He comes out at 7:55 and he's just around few of us, 3 4 of us, and um, he's there till 8:15. And in the meanwhile he asked me, what are you doing here, why are you not going for work? And I said, Swami, I'm about to go. Swami said, no, 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 don't go, just be here, just be here. Right? And even though that was official work, I had to go to I thought that I needed to be there and I'll get some important. And Swami said, no, 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 don't go, you be here only. Right? And that was the beauty of Bhagwan, that all he wanted every one of us is to just be connected to him and hold on to his feet, surrender to him, think of him all the time. Right? Even though like I fail almost every day, and I think, how is it possible? But I fail, I still get up and I say, okay, Swami, help me so that we can think of you, we can get connected to you, because that was his message. His message was he was connected to all of us individually in our hearts. And when I pray to him, or when I used to pray to him then physically, he used to reflect it just the next day or a few days physically. And here the beauty is, you pray to him and he somehow makes things work in his own way, or someone calls up, or someone gives you a book, or something happens. The magnanimity and of this loving, beautiful experience of this Sai avatar is really overflowing with love, and it gives me so much of happiness. And I thank Bhagwan. I thank Bhagwan, and I can't imagine our lives without him. Only I can think was, only if you would have been in the time of Jesus or Krishna could you really get those experiences of how you can love God. And here we are so grateful to Bhagwan that we had him, and we were contemporaries of him, and we could experience that bhakti and that love, what the Bible says, what the Gita says, what the Bhagavata says. That is what we were so fortunate and lucky to experience all that. And I'm so grateful to my parents, grateful to my teachers, grateful to everyone who has really been a part of this journey. And of course, grateful to Bhagwan, who um, who with his abundance of grace, mercy, allowed me to be with him. Even though I know from my heart of hearts I didn't deserve it. I'm just thank you, and thank you for giving me this great opportunity to share some of my thoughts, some of the things which were in my heart, and this is just an offering to him. And I pray, Swami, again, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Jai Saram.
Hearty Sairams to you, brother. Thank you very much for that enlightening thoughts of yours with the magical experiences you had with our loving, beloved Bhagwan. It was truly a treat listening to you. We will now take in questions. So the first question we have is, Sairam, dear brother, some of us have experienced Sai Darshan in physical form, but not continuously, and some might not so. How can we meditate the presence of Swami continuously at every single moment of our lives? In other words, how can we always feel the presence of Swami? We'll be pleased if you could give the answer to this in two angles. One for the devotees who had the opportunity of having Swami's physical darshan, and another one for those who have not. Sairam, brother, over to you.
Sairam, this is a wonderful question. Whoever has asked this, the answer is very simple, but to practice it is very, very difficult, right? Um, and I think I mentioned the answer when we asked Swami, how could we do it? And I think it is where our interests lie. What are you interested in, right? If you're really interested and if you're in love with God, right, every other action of yours will be towards him. I remember when I was in school, I had asked Swami once, Swami, we used to have study hours between 8 to 9:30 every day. And I used to play a lot. I used to play a lot of basketball, and I used to do a lot of running. And I used to be dog tired when I come back. And I used to look at my books, and by 8:30, I'm snoring, right? And everyone is studying and I'm dozing. And I had I was so naive to ask Swami, Swami, can you give me a tip how not to sleep in study hours, right? So that I can study. Imagine the liberties boys could take with Bhagwan. And Swami just said, do it for me. Do it for Swami. Study for Swami. And then you will see that, you will not sleep, right? So one of the things I have found reading Swami's literature, the beautiful words in Satyasai Speaks or Vahini's, he's like every action of ours, he wants us to dedicate it to him. And if you look at the routine which he has sort of set up in the hostel, was from beginning from 5 o'clock, you have Suprabhatam, you think of him, right? He used to tell us, and our teachers used to tell us, even while you're taking bath, right? You need to think that you're bathing Swami, right? When you go to school, or we used to have prayers before starting, right? We have prayers for lunch, we have prayers for dinner. So Swami had set up that routine where, and then you had when you had bhajans in the evening, and then again you had prayer before dinner, and again you had prayer before sleeping. So he had set up a routine where we could combine the whole day and make it sacred by thinking of God, or giving us various formal locations where, or formal timelines where we had to think of God. At that point in time, as students, it didn't really matter to us, right? We were thinking, oh, this is a discipline and regime, and it was very difficult for us to understand the significance of what Swami had really asked us to. But now, if I really reflect back, and I see that if I want to be in that state which Swami is in, right? All of us want to be fearless, right? All of us want to be happy all the time, right? And if you want to really be fearless and happy all the time, my experience is the easiest way is to think of the Lord, right? Or do Gayatri Mantra. Or at any point in time, when you are chanting and thinking of his name all the time, the negative things of, oh, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, or the ego that comes in it doesn't allow you. So my experience is, when I compare it to pain and pleasure, right? Or pain and pain and happiness, if I want to be happy, if I want to be blissful, chanting Swami's name is the easiest way for me to be in that state that I can do anything. I can be incredible. I can, like, nothing in this world can stop me if I keep chanting his name. Like, if you take the example of Hanuman, I remember once we were in the interview room with Bhagwan, and when you're with Swami, you just get you're in a different plane, and suddenly we said Swami, and Swami started talking about Hanuman, and suddenly I said, Swami, I want to be like Hanuman. We want to be like Hanuman. And you know what Swami said? Swami said, huh, you want to be like Hanuman? Do what Hanuman did, be what Hanuman was. That's all. He said, do what Hanuman did. And what did Hanuman do? Right? Constantly, right? He was chanting Lord's name constantly. Because he was constantly chanting God's name, the other thing of fear of any other thing didn't really come in his mind. And Swami actually told us that when he was asked to jump into Sri Lanka, right? Um, he he doubted himself. He thought, okay, do I have the capability to do it? But then he connected it back, and he said, and he started chanting the Lord's name. And then he got the insight that when Lord himself gave him this activity, he himself will give him the strength to do it, right? So for me, um, we need to ask ourselves, why do we need to chant the Lord's name? If that why is very strong within us, that I need to chant God's name to make me feel that connection with him and bliss with him all the time, and I do not want to be dragged down by any other emotions out of my senses, right? The mind drags you down all the time. If your why is very strong, then your action becomes easy. But if your why is not strong, like when I was in college, my why wasn't strong as to why should I chant Swami's name. I know it is good, I know it is great, but my why was not that strong. At this point in life, I'm in my 40s, right? My why sometimes is very strong, that I have to chant Swami's name, because it puts me in that state that I can that I'm not sad, or I'm not depressed, or I'm fearless. So that why, if your why is strong, then automatically you will see that yes, you will do it. For example, I'll give you last few weeks at work was very hectic. I needed to really focus myself, and for me it was like I have to chant Swami's name at that point in time. Any point in time, I do not want anything else to distract you. Whether I get up in the morning, chant Swami's name, okay, or chant the Gayatri Mantra. Whether I'm going to the market, chant Gayatri Mantra, because I do not want anything else to distract me to say that I can't do it, because it was a very highly pressure job I was supposed to do. And my why was very strong, that yes, I need to be focused on Swami, then only, or I can need to be focused on the Gayatri Mantra, then only I know that my mind will not tell me that no, I'm not good enough to really do it. For me, I think it is, if your why is very strong, that my goal is very strong to merge at Swami's feet, right? Then your doing becomes very easy. I hope that answered your question.
Sairam, brother, yes. We believe that this single question and your inspirational answer would have guided every one of us with a perfect Sai routine for our lives. So with that question, We have now come to the conclusion of today's wonderful satsang. On behalf of the National Council and all the participants, our heartfelt gratitude to our beloved Bhagwan for sending us his divine instrument, Brother Amitabh, and giving us this wonderful opportunity to connect ourselves with our beloved Bhagwan himself. We thank you, brother, for having taken time off to conduct this wonderful satsang for us. So we'll be pleased if you could kindly end up the day's satsang with another Sai bhajan. Sai Ram.
Saram. हे परम दयालु साई राम, हे परम दयालु साई राम, भगवान 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 भगवान, हे परम दयालु साई राम। त्रेता युग में दशरथ नंदन, द्वापर युग में मुरली मोहन, कलियुग में साई नारायण, कलियुग में साई नारायण, एक प्रभु अनेक नाम, एक प्रभु अनेक नाम, परम दयालु साई राम। जय साई राम।
Sai Ram to you, brother. Once again, our hearty Sai Rams to you for making the day's satsang for us. We'll end up the day's satsang with Om and three Shantis. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Shanti 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 Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Sai Ram.
जय साई राम।